Not only is this the most fun build I've ever played, but it's also capable of clearing upwards of Pit 100. It carries T4 Belial in a 4-man party, kills him in 1 second solo, speed farms Pit runs in a minute, rips Astaroth and Butcher a new asshole. And if you play Nightmare Dungeons in a group, well, you'll clear out the entire dungeon before the others have even left the entrance. It's the Chain Lightning Azurewrath build, now faster, stronger, and more fun. Let's cover this bad boy and get you online as fast as possible. Oh, and by the way, this is the damage variant. If you make some slight changes, you'll double your speed, but at the expense of damage. Let's start with the basics of how the build works. If you're following my starter variant, feel free to skip ahead to the gearing section to see the changes. Or don't, if you enjoy fart jokes. Alright, so what the hell is going on here? Well, it's all azurewrath, baby. This is where all of our damage comes from, or well, like 99.9% of it. The reason this is so fantastic is due to the humongous flat damage it provides, and not only that, but it also gets a multiplicative multiplier from attack speed. Surely a bug, but one that's been in the game for ages, so let's just call it a feature. In any way, it's why the build is so fantastic. One of the highest flat damage multipliers out there from azurewrath, scale it with attack speed to make it even higher, and you've basically got yourself a build. There is a problem though. See this bullshit? It requires lucky hit. What does that even mean, Mr. Big Penis Man? It means that you need to get a lucky hit for it to even deal damage. Fortunate for us sorcerers, though, we have access to Chain Lightning. Not only does this have a high lucky hit chance, which we're going to scale even further, but it also shoots out a gazillion of chains all over the place, getting additional hits and in turn, additional damage. It also has the added benefit of blowing up the whole screen as well, not unlike yourself after playing this build. And better yet, you don't even need to get the $60 thirst trap skins to start busting only a few easy-to-obtain gear pieces, and this guide, of course. Other than Azurewrath, attack speed, and lucky hits. What else are there that we need to know about? Well, shit. Let's find out, shall we, by checking out the gear. Now, I'd like to preface this by saying that my gear is about 90% complete at this point. All there's left to do is hit the masterworks and swap a gear piece or two. Meaning, this is what you're aiming for. But what you actually need to get the build online is barely anything, which is why I made the starter version that also deletes all content. In any way, first out is the Heir of Perdition. I'm currently farming for one with GA Lucky Hit, because that's what you want here, and masterwork that shit. Don't have it? No problem. The Godslayer's Crown or a regular helm are fantastic starter options. Next up is the Shroud, preferably with GA all stats and masterworks, and starter variant. Well, raiment is actually a damage increase, but I'd much rather be able to just face Tank Belial and all other stupid-ass mechanics in the game than teleport around dodging them. So Shroud we go. For the gloves, this is an item I want you to prioritize. Not a 4GA, hell no. There's definitely no need for that. You're going to cap your crit chance and attack speed anyways, but you want one with a GA on the lucky hit and a high-rolled aspect. These are important. Another important piece is the Axial Conduit Pantaloonies. And why are they important? Well, damn son, for starters, with a GA and masterwork, you'll get 60% chance to hit twice with your Chain Lightning. But more importantly, it increases your amount of hits by a disgusting amount by allowing your Chain Lightnings to reset by hopping onto yourself before sending them out. Pretty cool. For sneakers, close your eyes. Imagine attacks reduced evade cooldown, a GA intelligence, armor and max life. And now look at this piece of shit. Fun story. I was pissed drunk and spent 10 billion and my masterworking mats on these, and then I realized, hey, this doesn't have attacks reduce evade cooldown on them. They're useless. Because without this stat, you won't be able to reset your teleport, and it will turn you into a slow old hag. In any way, we also have one of our most important aspects here, the Orange Herald. Using this and having a lot of lucky hits, we instantly reset the cooldown of our ultimate unstable currents, which is mad important. We'll talk about why after we're done with the gear. Speaking of gear, here is my lovely azurewrath. The only important stat here is that you get a GA on the lucky hit. The others are not so much, but the lucky hit definitely, as this is where all of your damage comes from, and if you were to master crit it 3 times, then holy shit, your damage is going off the roof. For your offhand, the only stat you need is chance to restore resources. And I can't stress how important this is, because in this version, this is where all of your resources comes from, and you're spending them like crazy. Other than that, temper on cold damage, and get one with cooldown reduction on it if you can. I'd personally like to replace the max life with int, as it would grant me a 20% damage increase. But hey, we can't all be Elon Musk. Finally, the jewelry. This one's perfect, but I'd master crit the class cannon if I wasn't so lazy. Other than that, make sure you have evade cooldown tempers here, as this in combination with having them on your boots, your ring, and some on your offhand will allow you to teleport every second attack, meaning 2 chain lightnings casted, and you will be able to evade with this setup. If you were to grab a Shaco, then 1 chain lightning will be enough. For aspect, Storm Swell is by far the best, and we're also grabbing the Myriad Stone Jewel, which helps us out with capping attack speed and making it way easier to gear. For our rings, we first have Starless. I'd personally grab this as your first mythic, preferably with a GA on crit chance or lucky hit. The reason we want this first is because using this, we can spam out more chain lightnings without investing into additional resource generation. Previously, we were using a rune offering that restored resources each chain lightning. But now, we're able to instead use Posi and Cax combined with Ahu and Thule instead for maximum damage and maximum stagger. Also grab Idol from below here. On the other ring, a good Tal Rasha with GA cooldown reduction is a banger if you want to keep teleporting. I'd focus on this and the aspect first, getting as good of a roll as possible, and then consider the other rolls. In any way, get Scornful Light Jewel here, and we'll check out the skills and why we're using them. But first, I'd like to thank all of my amazing Patreons. You're the best, guys. Thank you for supporting my journey. I have Patreon, by the way, and YouTube membership if you'd like to, they're in the description. Okay, anyways. Starting us off, I guess, teleport. Do we need this when we have evade as our teleport? No. Are we going to use it anyways? Fuck yes. It's added mobility unless you play a Shaco variant. I would like to mention, though, that I've made 2 planners, and one is for pit push. For that one, you'd swap teleport for ball lightning as you'd get 20% additional attack speed. But I reckon there's barely half a human out there that wants to pit push seriously that's watching this video. Oh, and by the way, if you're a dumbass playing on console, then you're free to use Chain Lightning, Enchant, and whatever skill you want other than teleport if you can't use them properly. Got that question a lot as well. Next, Ice Blades, a must-have, and you also need it as your enchantment to keep 3 up at all times, as the modifier grants you 30% attack speed in the second attack speed bucket. For third skill, Ice Barrier is an absolute must. You're going to have it up permanently, and it grants you a barrier for your full health at all times. Without this, you're dead instantly. And to unstable currents. I got a few questions about this on my last video, so this is all that we're getting from it. 25% attack speed. In the second attack speed bucket, it spawns lightning spears, which stuns all enemies, and it spawns familiars, which also stuns enemies and grants you damage. And finally, both of these boosts primordial binding for additional mana regen. That's why we're using it. Okay, Flame Shield next, and it's used to avoid stupid shit, and for Tal Rashas. And finally, Chain Lightning, because we need to cast something, right? With that, we're done just in time to check out the skill tree and its details. Basic skills? Nah. Chain lightning? Yes. I have 14 ranks in this, but the damage it deals is still marginal. Rather, the ranks are from my gear, and I'm only using it to trigger azurewrath along with spawning, crackling energies, which will grant us mana back. Next, we go to pick up all of our defensive skills as we talked about, along with teleport and a few passive skills. Class cannon here is 8 damage per rank, so getting this, and preferably also masterworking it on your amulet, will grant you giga damage. Next we go for all of our conjuration skills, where we only cast ice blades manually, along with the defensive passives, some lucky hit, and a bunch of mana regen. In the mastery tree we find Inner Flames, which is your second to third best passive to have on your amulet due to its high scaling, and we of course also want Invigorating Combat to generate even more mana. Now if you don't have Inner Flames, then Permafrost is equally as good of an option. If you're trading, then you may as well see which one's cheaper and grab that one, because they grant the same amount of damage. Top that off with some damage passives, defense, cooldown reduction, and unstable currents to finish it all off, and then finish me off. Please, it's been so long. Just kidding, I'm busting right now watching this fantastic build. For key passive, ideally, you'd go with Enlightenment for huge damage and mana regen, but I'd recommend pretty much all of you to go with Vaya's Mastery. Hell, it's the one I'm using, and it's mainly due to the damage reduction. You will clearly tell when you're using this one in high pits. It's also absolutely fantastic for killing bosses. Well, will you look at that? Skill tree complete. What do you say we check out some goodies, and then we'll head off to the Paragons? Yeah? Good stuff. First goodies are our seasonal powers. We're rocking Disintegrate, and important here that you set it to spawn from your ultimate, because otherwise your added attack speed won't trigger from this jewel. You then use the Glacial Nimbus to gain cold damage for azurewrath, Bloody Charm for an execute, Tranquil Stone for unstoppable, and finally Fractured Core for that much-needed removal of annoying resistance auras. I'd also like to mention that a solid option, and probably a better one, is to use Anomaly, as it also grants you attack speed in the second attack speed bucket. But I found this to be somewhat unreliable. I don't know, man, try it if you want. For Mercenary, Subo is the fucking man as per usual, and he is the sole reason I prefer to play solo. The Seeker granting aimbot is just fantastic, especially when speed farming. For reinforcement, Raher is my guy as well. A good guy, great for defense. And with that, we're finally ready for the Paragons. Not much has changed here, but I've made some slight modifications. For starters, I'm now using Destruction here. This is due to us being crit chance capped in this setup, which we were far from being in the starter setup. Now though, this has a 100% uptime and scales fantastic. Next, we go to pick up Static Charge for the damage and mana, while socketing Elementalist for just crazy amounts of damage increases. In the Enchantment Masterboard, we're socketing Tactician, which is yet another great glyph when it comes to damage. After that, head on over to Frigid Fate, which won't be any issues capping when we have Glacial Nimbus and Socket Unleash for both damage and mana regen. Finally, we go to Ceaseless Conduit to grab the Control Glyph, which is the best glyph out there as long as enemies are crowd-controlled, which is basically most content out there. Now I'd also like to mention that the rest of the nodes, that is the magic and rare nodes, you grab what you need after you've obtained the glyphs and legendary nodes. For example, need defense? Focus on grabbing all the max life nodes and damage reduction nodes. Want damage? Focus on that. The world's your oyster, and so is the Paragon board. With that said, let's go get good bitches. This, my friends, is how you play the build. Nah, but really, it's this simple. Your Ice Blades, Ice Barrier, Unstable Currents, and Flame Shield are pretty much all content you're just pressing them when they're off cooldown. The only thing you need to aim is your Teleport and Chain Lightnings. And how you use these basically speaks for itself. You use teleport when you want mobility, and you spam chain lightning as often as possible. Pretty simple, right? Yeah. Probably could have skipped this section for this video, but here we are. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, Big.
Friends,